Learning why people stay and why they go. Stay interviews are basically interviews with members of your team and or as a group. The immediate goal is to learn about how they feel about working for your organization. The overarching goal is to keep talented and dedicated people working for you. A good stay interview explores an employee's experience from a teamwork, career, and cultural perspective. Stay interviews should be prefaced with a group workshop during which the group discusses their team dynamic. Different information comes out of group and individual discussions, which is why you really need to have both. Working people tend to describe their experience differently depending on who's in the room with them. And when you understand how that works, you're able to decode that information and make it a lot more useful to you as an organization. This approach gets you experience and engagement data that gives you much more to work with than an employee survey, and definitely more than an exit interview. Depending on the culture of your workplace, employees express very little of their true experience directly to their managers or even to anyone inside the organization. They say only what they can without fear of reprisal or alienating that colleague or that manager or being perceived as negative or lacking in some sort of emotional self-management skill. The trouble with that is that the most important information about an employee's experience is found in the things that they aren't always willing to say. A stay interview consultant can be an effective way around this. What you want is to get an authentic, actionable data set from your stay interviews. So it might be useful to get a consultant that can get employees to open up a little bit more. Your team might not know that three things make it impossible for them to fully engage. And it is extremely helpful for them to know, because then they can identify it and actually work with the employer to solve those problems. Those three things are isolation, meaninglessness, and pain punishment. They might not know how to tell if any of those things are affecting them or how to fix it. So the group introduction goes a long way to establishing that needed awareness. The initial group session goes a long way towards equipping your team to take active responsibility for their part in being an engaged employee. It also equips them to express what their employer can do to make things even better. When you ask a common state interview question like, what do you think about as you're driving home every day? You actually get an informed answer. They know what the interviewee is looking for because they've been properly briefed and prepared for the experience. At Workplace Culture Store, we know that fun goes a long way to setting an employee at ease, which helps them open up a little bit more. And that's why the second technique we use in our stay interviews, which isn't commonly used with standard stay interviews, is this. We allow the employee to place some comments into what we call the Jeopardy jar. The Jeopardy jar means their comment is potentially provocative and they're not necessarily comfortable with expressing it directly. That's why in this stay interview model, it gets expressed without naming the employee and only after it has been properly stripped of emotion and stated in a professional, constructive way. Every comment that goes into that Jeopardy jar comes with a "this sucks" scale to show how much that employee hates this particular aspect of their work. The 1 to 10 "this sucks" scale expresses things like anger, disappointment, resentment, things that make the workplace awkward and uncomfortable, and they definitely affect engagement. They're feelings that, if they're not dealt with, they usually worsen until the employee decides to leave. The technique that we use does three things. It's playful. So by inducing some laughter, it counteracts and heals some of those negative feelings. And the game with their interviewer is funny. So it helps them see the whole thing through a lens of humor and lightheartedness. And this actually helps them to take a braver journey into that vulnerable spot in their work experience where they have a lot of personal investment into the situations that really burn their butts and kind of stay with them every day and drag them down a little bit. The way this information is imparted to the supervisors is also playful, but it's a secret, and you have to contact Workplace Culture Store to find out how. So call me. I'll tell you all about it. So the report that we give you after the stay interviews provides stronger awareness of the interviewees' belonging, their sense of belonging at the workplace, a better understanding of how his or her relationships in the workplace contribute to success, some new insights on how to better cultivate togetherness, collaboration skills, awareness of his or her passions, and authentic fulfillment in their work, and permission to bring more fun into his or her work life, knowing it supports their performance rather than interfering with it. And for the organization, the report provides improved awareness of how effectively employees are connecting at work and what team building activities might be valuable. It provides insight on the top 3 contributors to alien engagement, which I mentioned earlier in the video: isolation, meaninglessness, pain, punishment, and how to counteract those effects. Improved awareness of the interests and passions of the team. These represent the best way to reach them on a meaningful level. Knowledge of how to help employees connect their role and tasks to the objectives of the organization as a whole and to feel a sense of meaningful purpose in it. And finally, some insights on how your employees define fun, which is an incredibly important part of employee engagement. And that doesn't have to interfere with productivity. In fact, it improves productivity. And definitely how to inject more of it into the daily work experience to realize some of those productivity benefits. Please contact us if you have further questions about our stay interview process. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks.